The 85 Canons of the Holy and Renowned Apostles, together with an interpretation of them in the common dialect of modern Greek, translated into whomsoever he wishes to the office of the episcopate as a matter of concession to a brother, or to a son, or to a relative. For it is not right for heirs to the episcopate to be created, by subjecting God's things to human passion, for God's church ought not to be entrusted to heirs. If anyone shall do this, let the ordination remain invalid and void, and let the bishop himself be penanced with excommunication. C. 23 of Antioch, c. XL of Carthage. Interpretation. Prelatical authority is admittedly a grace and gift of the Holy Spirit. So how can anyone bestow it upon another as an inheritable right? Wherefore the present apostolical canon decrees that a bishop ought not to favor any of his brothers or sons or relatives by ordaining him as his successor to the office of the episcopate. Because it is not right for one to create heirs to the episcopate and prelacy, as is done, that is to say, in the case of other affairs among seculars, and to bestow the gracious gifts of God upon another as a favor, such as the prelatical authority, on account of human passion, or, in other words, on account of considerations of relationship or of friendship. Nor ought anyone to subject the Church of God to inheritance, by so acting as to cause it to be called a patrimony. But if any one of the bishops should do this and ordain any relative of his as his successor to the episcopate, the ordination so performed shall be invalid and of no effect, while he himself who ordained that person shall be excommunicated, for bishops must be made by a synod. Accordingly if, as declared in c. XL of Carthage, bishops have no authority to leave to their relatives, or to anyone else they may choose, any property that they acquired after the episcopate, by way of legacy, except only whatever they have acquired by inheritance from relatives or any bestowed upon them by someone else in token of honor. How can they leave as a legacy to their relatives, or to anyone else they may wish, the episcopate itself? Concord. Wherefore consistently herewith c. 23 of Antioch commands that no bishop shall have authority to appoint a successor to himself even though he be at the point of death. On the contrary, the synod and the judgment of the bishops composing it shall have sole authority to appoint whomsoever they find to be worthy, after the decease of the defunct bishop. Hence it was that this very same thing was prohibited also in connection with ancient Israel. It was on this ground that they laid an accusation against Moses, charging that he appointed his brother Aaron to the office of high priest, and the latter's sons too. Accordingly, had not God himself confirmed their appointment to holy orders by means of the sign of the rod which sprouted and blossomed, there is little doubt that they would have been deposed from office. Canon 77. If any cripple, or anyone with a defect in an eye or in a leg, is worthy of the episcopate, let him be made a bishop. For it is not an injury to the body that defiles one, but a pollution of the soul. C. 33 of the 6th. Interpretation. The old law commanded that those about to become priests must not have defect of body, but must be sound and able-bodied and without blemish. For whatsoever man he be that hath a blemish, it says, he shall not approach a blind man, or a lame man, or one that has a foreshortened nose, or one that has had his ears cut off, or any man that has had his hand or his foot crushed, or any man that is humpbacked, or freckled, or that has defective eyes 3, or any man whatsoever in whom there is the condition known as wild itch, or who has but one testicle. Lev. 21:18-20. But also even in case they came by any such blemish in the body after admission to holy orders, they had to cease officiating in connection with their sacred office. The new law, however, of the grace of the gospel does not consider such blemishes and injuries of the body to be obstacles to holy orders, but demands rather that they have their soul clear from any filth or sinosity. Wherefore the present canon says in effect, if anyone has been injured in his eyes, as, for instance, if he has but one eye, or is squint-eyed, or is cross-eyed, or is short-sighted, or if anyone has broken leg, or, what amounts to the same thing, if he is lame in either leg, or if anyone that has any other defect or injury in his body that does not prevent him from exercising the functions of the sacred offices is otherwise worthy and deserves to be made a bishop, let him be ordained, since the bodily defect does not render him unworthy, but only a pollution of the soul due to sin. Concord. Canon 33 of the 6th excommunicates prelates that make clergymen only of those who are descended from a priestly line, by decreeing that they must not regard lineage in a Jewish way, but much rather have consideration for the worthiness of the soul. Street Nicephorus, on the other hand, in his c. 8 says that even those who have been born of a concubine or of a bigamist may be ordained if they are worthy. The same thing is said also in c. 9 of Nicetas of Heraclea. Canon 78. Let no one that is deaf nor anyone that is blind be made a bishop, not on the ground that he is deficient morally, but lest he should be embarrassed in the exercise of ecclesiastical functions. Interpretation. If, however, the present canon goes on to say, anyone is blind in both eyes, or is deaf in both ears, let such a person not be made a bishop. Not because these defects imply any moral unfitness or that he is unworthy, but because he is prevented by these defects from performing the sacred rites in the church. For how can anyone that cannot see or that cannot hear officiate at the altar? Or how can he handle the sacred elements, or read the sacred books, or listen to the words uttered by the laity? Note, however, that those who have been stricken deaf or blind after attaining to holy orders ought not to be deposed therefore, for such procedure would indicate lack of sympathy, because the civil law, in Book 8, Title I, ch. 1, Subject 4, says that a blind man can even try cases as a judge, and is not to be ousted from office, though he cannot receive any other authority, but, on the contrary, has to remain content with that which he possessed before the accident. Canon 79. If anyone is possessed of a demon, let him not be made a clergyman, nor even be allowed to pray in company with the faithful. But after he has been cleansed thereof, let him be received, and if worthy be made one. C7 of the 6th, and 2 Tim. 3:15. Interpretation. Everyone that is possessed of demons is considered unclean, because he engenders the suspicion that because of the wickedness of his life he has afforded the devil permission to enter him. How, therefore, can any such person be promoted to the clergy, seeing that even oil of myrrh used in making chrism is not trusted when it is in a rotten container? According to St. Gregory the theologian. Hence the present canon decrees that if anyone is permanently possessed of a demon, such a person shall not be made a clergyman. Neither shall he be allowed to pray in church along with the faithful, lest he disturb their praying and the doxology they are offering to God, with his disorderly actions and his demoniacal cries, which are usual to those possessed of demons. But after he has been cleansed and freed from the demon, let him be admitted to prayer along with the faithful, and if he is worthy to become a clergyman, let him be made one. Concord. But why does c. 3 of Timothy of Alexandria permit one possessed of a demon to partake of communion if he does not confess or blaspheme the mystery, at a time when the present canon does not even permit him to pray along with the faithful? This is explainable by the fact that the present canon refers to one that is permanently and continuously energized by a demon, whereas that of Timothy contemplates a person who is energized by a demon with now and then an interruption at various times. He therefore allows him to partake of the divine mysteries when he is not being energized and suffering. Accordingly, in this manner the two canons are reconciled with each other and are seen not to be contrary to each other. Nevertheless, even when demonized only at times a person ought not to be admitted to the clergy and be made a priest, lest holy orders or the priesthood be blasphemed as a result. And lest during the time of the awful services being held the demon should energize him and the holy elements be roundly insulted. Patriarch Nicholas says this very same thing in decreeing, in his c. 4, that if anyone is suffering from atrabiliousness he will appear to most persons to be possessed of a demon in case he partakes of communion. But if he is actually possessed of a demon, says Nicholas, let him abstain from communion. The council held in Trullan, on the other hand, says that those who pretend to be possessed of a demon, without actually being possessed of one, shall be penanced with the same penance that would be meted out to them in case they actually were possessed of a demon, and let them be compelled to undergo the same hardships and fastings as the truly possessed have to undergo. Canon 80. It is not right to ordain a man a bishop immediately after he has joined the church and been baptized if he has hitherto been leading a heathenish life, or has been converted from wicked behavior. For it is wrong to let one without experience become the teacher of others, unless in some special case this be allowed as a matter of divine favor and grace. C2 of the 1st, C17 of the 1st and 2nd, C12 of Neases, C12 of Sard, C3 of Laodicea, C4 of Cyril. Interpretation. The present canon declares that it is not right for one to be made a bishop immediately when he has been heathen and infidel all his life and has just joined the pious faith and been baptized, or has repented after leading a vicious and malicious life, such as is that of theatrical actors and buffoons and others like them. For it is unjust and unfair and wrong for one to become a teacher of others such as is a bishop, when he has not yet afforded any proof or given any demonstration to show that he is sound in matters of faith and irreproachable in respect of life. Any such test requires time, and cannot be put through in a short interval. The sole exception is that he may be ordained a bishop if a special revelation from God is granted him, as happened in the case of the Apostle Ananias, in regard to St. Paul, when the Lord told him in a vision, "Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before nations, and kings, and the children of Israel too." Acts 9:15. Concord. St. Paul also commands this same thing in writing to Timothy, saying, "Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the devil's judgment and trap." 1 Tim. 3-6, with reference to ordaining one who has been only recently catechized and freshly planted in the vineyard of Christ. Hence it was that c. 2 of the 1st Hecum. C commanded that those joining the faith and coming from a heathen life must not be elevated to the rank of either bishop or presbyter until they have first given a fair demonstration of their faith, and have shown it in their life. Also c. 3 of Laodicea says that persons newly baptized ought not to be admitted to holy orders. Canon the 10th of Sardican, on the other hand, decrees that no rich businessman or anyhow no college professor ought to be made a bishop unless he first serve as a deacon and presbyter, in order that his faith and faithfulness may be thereby attested, and lest he be looked upon as a novice, but that in every rank he is to be tried for no less than a sufficient length of time. Moreover, even c. 17 of the 1st and 2nd decrees the same things, in that it forbids both laymen and monks from ascending at once to the exalted rank of the episcopate without his first being duly examined with respect to the ecclesiastical degrees. Canon 12 of Caesarea forbids anyone being made a presbyter if he is one that has been baptized during illness, unless it be because of his capacity or lack of suitable men. Canon 3 of Cyril prohibits newlyweds from being made clergymen, as well as men that have been expelled by a prelate, and men that come from a monastery, and those who are wholly disreputable. Concerning which see the footnote to c.